You're about to listen to a BBC podcast, and trust me, you'll get there in a moment. But if you're a comedy fan, I'd really like to tell you a bit about what we do. I'm Julia Mackenzie, and I commission comedy podcasts at the BBC. It's a bit of a dream job, really. Comedy is a fantastic, joyous thing to do because really you're making people laugh, making people's days a bit better, helping them process all manner of things. But, I also know that comedy is really subjective and everyone has different tastes. So we've got a huge range of comedy on offer, from satire to silly, shocking to soothing, profound to just general prattling about. So if you fancy a laugh, find your next comedy at BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, analysis and insight you need on this Tuesday, the 5th of December. I'm Liam McLeod, and coming up today...
There are weaknesses for Germany, but some real strengths. And, anybody who wants to underestimate Germany, I think should be looking at the real strengths that they have as well.
We take a look at Scotland's Euro 2024 opponents, Germany. Also, on the domestic front...
Last chance, surely, for Motherwell. Here's Shaw. Gives it to Connor Wilkinson!
Following a dramatic draw at the weekend, can Motherwell go one better in Dingwall? And...
I think it's absolutely outrageous to question anyone's integrity, and I think it's a huge insult to us.
We'll hear why tensions are running high as the Scotland women's national team prepare to face England at Hampden.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, thank you very much for downloading and listening to today's edition of the Scottish Football Podcast. Remember, we are with you every single day. I'm joined, and I'm delighted to say I am joined today by the former Scotland, Chelsea and Glasgow City player Suzanne Lappin, and Derek Ray, Bundesliga commentator for worldwide viewers on ESPN. And Derek, if you're of a certain vintage, former Sports Sound presenter. That feels like a long time ago. Can't have been that long ago, Derek. I remember listening to you.
It was at least a century ago, Liam. So, yeah.
They were good times, to be fair. Good times in your career as well, I'm sure. A lot has gone under the bridge since then, though, that's for sure.
Indeed. Yeah. No, but great memories.
Suzanne, how are you? And are you positive and confident ahead of it's a disappointingly, lack of high-stakes match for Scotland in the Women's Nations League this evening, but it's against England, and that sells itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, playing England at Hampden, it's something I never got the opportunity to do personally. I know the girls will be, really up for this game. I know there's not so much at stake from a Scotland perspective, but when you play the old enemy, it's everything's at stake. Passion's going to be high, adrenaline's going to be high, and I'm sure the girls will be looking for a big crowd to support them, and they'll want to put on a display, get the result.
Well, lots more to come from Derek and Suzanne, but first let's, as we do every day, take a quick whiz through this morning's headlines. Well, Captain Rachel Corsie says it's disrespectful and outrageous to question Scotland's integrity before that match with England tonight. If any Scotland players hope to feature for Team GB at the Paris Olympics next summer, it's likely they'll need to lose this evening's Nations League game at Hampden. Ross County and Motherwell meet tonight in the Men's Premiership. A win for either will see them go just a point off the top six. Former Celtic and Hibs manager Tony Mowbray's been sacked as manager of Sunderland, and the BBC understands that another former Easter Road gaffer, Paul Heckingbottom, is set to be fired by Sheffield United. As we record this, the Rangers AGM is taking place, with the board facing questions from shareholders, and the Scotland men's national team have lined up a pre-Euro 2024 friendly with the Netherlands in Amsterdam in March. And it's with the Scotland men's national team that we will start this morning. And over the next few weeks, we'll find out a bit more about each of our opponents at Euro 2024, starting with Germany. Derek's with us, obviously covers the German Bundesliga on a weekly basis, knows every single team and player inside out. And I have to say, Derek, I was away the weekend. I was in Copenhagen going round Tivoli, the Christmas markets, when the draw was made. And a little look at it, and the excitement levels were palpable when you see them coming out with Germany, because you know immediately that that's going to be the opening match to the tournament. And it's obviously been anticipated for a while in Germany, but for Scotland, what a huge match that's going to be in the history of the national side?
I think it's the dream match, really, Liam. I think it's actually one of these draws that is perfect for Scotland for various reasons, but it's actually also good for Germany because they wanted an opening match, and I heard this from a number of German friends and colleagues. They wanted an opening match with some passion. Didn't necessarily want an opening match against a team that they thought would test them to the absolute limit, but they wanted something of substance. And I think they feel they've got that. And all the talk has been actually not so much about the Scotland team, but about the fans, about the Tartan Army and that factor. And that will be most welcome inside the stadium. And there's also a feeling here in Germany that it could actually have a positive effect on the German national team, because I saw in a little article the other day, which I think was quite well written and put together. Scotland have at the moment what Germany don't, and that is this real sort of belief and passion and feeling that everything has come together and people are pulling in the right direction. Germany, on paper, are very talented. I look at their team. I'm slightly biased because I cover the Bundesliga, but I look at that team and I think that should be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in Europe. They're not performing as such. Scotland, we're not one of the top 3 or 4 teams in Europe. Nobody would claim that. But what we do have is a sense of purpose, a sense of unity, a coach, a manager who I think fits the current set of players, an understanding of which tactics work best for Scotland. And, so I think on that level, Germany look at Scotland and go, yeah, they sort of know who they are. We at the moment don't know who we are. That's the feeling with Germany, is that they're losing far too many games, too many silly games. The tactics have not been right, no matter who the coach has been. And now they've got Julian Nagelsmann in charge, who I rate very highly. It's early days, though, for him, and the last international window was far from positive for Germany, the 2 games against Turkey and Austria, which they lost. So this is a really intriguing opening game.
My colleague Tom English was ecstatic with the draw. He was vociferous that the pot 1 team he wanted was Germany. Now, I, as you, Derek, I'm sure, have over the years, have had that attitude. You just cannot rule out the Germans. I know it's been disappointing for them. I know under Joachim Löw they had so many issues, and obviously Hansi Flick came in and it didn't improve. And now here with Nagelsmann in charge, they've got this issue where they've been playing friendly matches rather than competitive ones. So I kind of take their form with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I would disagree with Tom in the sense that I think, again, if you know these players, you will know that this is not a bad collection of players. Yeah, I mean, he's right in the sense that they haven't been performing, but you've said it there. Friendlies are one thing, competitive matches something else. They did beat France recently, so we shouldn't overlook that. I mean, they can rise to the occasion. And I think the hope here, from a German point of view, the hope is that the euphoria, the excitement of a home Euro, and that's what it is, a home Euro, will bring the best out of Germany. We have to be a bit realistic going into it, but I do think Scotland should be confident that if they play their game, if they play the way they did in the group stage, that can bear fruit. Listening to some former German pros talking about it, some are a bit worried because they do think that Scotland are the sort of team that could be problematic. Again, nobody's really talking about individual Scots. They're looking more at the dynamic of the game, where Germany are, where Scotland are on their trajectory. But above all, we want the tournament to be a success, those of us who work here in Germany, and this has the makings of one of the best possible openings to it.
I'm just having a little look at the odds for Euro 2024, Derek, who, to win the title. And I'm just, obviously, I mean, there's some hugely talented sides in Europe at the moment. I think France and England are probably the best 2 teams in Europe, along potentially with Portugal. Germany coming in as third favourites, though, behind the French and the English. Perhaps home advantage coming into that. Do you expect them to be mixing it in the latter stages of the tournament? I
will be very surprised, to be honest, if Germany don't win the group. I think with Scotland, Hungary and Switzerland, again, look at the quality of talent. The problem Germany have is, we can get into it if you like, but the problem Germany have is that they are strong in certain positions, almost overly strong. And by that, I mean sort of the attacking midfield positions, middle to front. really good, an embarrassment of riches. They've struggled to have a proper centre forward for a while, although Niklas Füllkrug has demonstrated that he can play that role. And right back is a problem. And you could also say that left back is a bit of a problem. So they have these glaring weaknesses, and sometimes central defence too. So they're really strong in some positions, but they struggle to fill adequately other positions. And it's those weaknesses that I'm sure Steve Clarke and his staff will be focusing on in the weeks and months ahead. But the strength really is when you look at players like, again, I'm a little bit biased because I see him all the time, but Jamal Musiala for me is one of the top 2 or 3 talents in world football in his position. And Scotland will be up against him. Leroy Sané, who is having the best starts to a season that he's ever had. And, he's been working with Harry Kane at Bayern, and the two have been playing off each other with tremendous success. So there you have two, right there. You have Joshua Kimmich, who is a fabulous footballer with a great brain, but the big debate is where should he play? And this debate's gone back, over a number of years now. And there are those who still believe he should be used at right back. And I brought this up on a discussion program I was on here in Germany, a show called Doppelpass. That's a bit of a Sunday morning institution with a studio audience. And I made the point that if Scotland have a strength, Andrew Robertson, if he's fit, obviously flying up and down the left-hand side, that could be problematic for Germany because they don't really have a natural right back. And it was the point was put on the panel that maybe that is a good case for Kimmich, a good player to be playing there, knowing what Robertson can do. So, all these internal discussions. But as I say, there are weaknesses for Germany. There are, Baustellen is the German word, building sites. It's a good way of putting it. There are building sites within the Germany national team, but some real strengths. And, anybody who wants to underestimate Germany, I think should be looking at the real strengths that they have as well.
Such as Tom English, our chief sports writer. Yes, indeed.
Tom, are you listening?
Of course he's listening. He listens every day, especially when he's on it. Derek, danke schön. Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you very much for joining us on the Scottish Football Podcast. Derek Ray, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Right, sticking with the national teams, it's a big one at Hampden tonight as Scotland's women face England in the Nations League. Suzanne Lappin, of course, with us. Suzanne, what did you make of Rachel Corsie's comments yesterday? We heard a little clip of it earlier on. I mean, having worked with Rachel, I know that that's not the sort of thing she would have taken kindly.
No, absolutely not. I know Rachel well as well, former teammate at Glasgow City and, the national team. And, I know her well personally. And I think, she hit it spot on. It's almost an insult, I think, to the players. Just
talk us through, Suzanne, what the situation is, because obviously the result tonight impacts on whether Team GB will be able to qualify, the women's football team will be able to qualify for the Paris Summer Olympics next year.
Yeah, so England obviously are the sort of country that will carry the baton, if you like, for Team GB's qualification. And that sort of rides on England winning tonight. There's a few permutations, if Netherlands win, we need to win by a certain amount of goals. I think it's about 3 clear goals. So it does, directly impact Team GB's qualification. That's a fact. But for me, I can only speak as a former player myself. Representing Scotland is the highest honour. It always was. For every female that I spoke to in this country, you wanted to represent your country. You want to do well, and I don't know anybody in any level of football. I can't even do it at five-a-sides who can step onto a pitch and not want to win and absolutely give their all. As I said at the top of the programme, to play at Hampden against England, it's such a massive game. It's something that, the girls, this country, everyone has always wanted, for a long, long time. We're hoping we can get a crowd. We're hoping that we can get attendances boosting and, at some point in the future get to the level where England is. And for me, Rachel was spot on. The integrity of this group, is second to none, and they will be going all out tonight to win. There's no questions asked on that.
It's just such a pity, isn't it, that they're going to finish bottom of Group A regardless of the result tonight. Where do you think it's gone wrong this campaign?
Yeah, it is a pity. I covered the game on Friday night against Belgium, and for the majority of that game, Scotland were the team in the ascendancy. Dominating possession, dominating the ball, really comfortable. Middle to front, really exciting. Solid at the back. A couple of lapses in concentration. But I think for me overall, I think the glaring thing for me for Scotland right now, we lack an out-and-out goal scorer. We lack someone who is just in the box scoring goals, and that's no disrespect to the people that are leading the line for Scotland, but they're not out-and-out penalty box, Julie Fleeting type goal scorers.
It's just a pity that Julie's not involved these days, isn't it?
It's if we could have another Julie Fleeting up there, that's exactly what we're missing, because you get the creativity for me right now in midfield in Scotland. It's littered with talent. Erin Cuthbert, Kirsty McLean, Sam Kerr, Caroline Weir to come back in. That middle to front is so exciting, full of top level talent. Caroline Weir, one of the best, midfielders in Europe for me, never mind just Scotland. And what we're missing though is that number 9 that can lead the line and get the goals.
It's the same issue with the men's team, isn't it?
Yes.
Both they're well stocked in other departments, but not
that
where
clinical.
It really counts.
Yeah, that clinical. At international level, we spoke about it the other night on the game. You get 3 or 4 chances at that level. You don't get 10 or 12 where you can afford to miss 3 or 4. You get 4 or 5 chances in a game. Maybe even less than that at elite level, and you've got to take them. And Scotland have had their chances over this, campaign. The Netherlands result away, I think in every other game we've competed and we've gave a great account of ourselves, and as I say, for large parts of it, created great opportunities and dominated the ball, but just capitalising and, getting that final edge. I think, 3 goals over the game so far, 2 points, if you think back to, where we were in 2019, in the World Cup, I think, and then, missing out, in the World Cup recently and in Australia as well, it's been disappointing. And, we are due a big result against a top team. And, for me, why not make that happen tonight?
Well, fingers crossed for Scotland this evening against England at Hampden. It's a 7:45 kickoff. It's live on BBC One television, and also with us on BBC Radio Scotland, Sports Sound on the air from 7 o'clock on digital, online and on your smartphone. That's BBC Radio Scotland Extra. Finally, there are 5 fixtures in the Premiership this midweek, kicking off tonight with Ross County against Motherwell. There'll be full updates, of course, from Dingwall from that match throughout the Women's International at Hampden. Suzanne, both teams on 14 points. I'm reckoning that's going to be a pretty tight match.
Yeah, as you say, you actually look at their results so far this season, they're pretty much mirror image of each other. Sitting in joint points. I think, Derek Adams has came in and, he's not lost a game yet. So, he'll be hoping that continues. I think for Motherwell, I was looking at it, their last win came in September. They're due a win, although they've had a couple of draws on the bounce, one being at Celtic Park, which is, massive. But I think Stuart Kettlewell, they badly need a victory, Motherwell, and I think it's a hard one to call tonight. There's not much between the sides, only 4 points between them and the bottom just now. But a win is crucial. I think we're going into a period, as we know, the winter Christmas period where the fixtures come thick and fast. And I think as I said, for both teams, a win is crucial. I think Derek Adams to continue, where he's came from, he's lifted them from the foot of the table. And, Stuart Kettlewell, on the other hand, I think Motherwell really, really need a big result, and Motherwell, over the last couple of seasons have been, sort of round about the top 6 area, so they'll be desperate to get themselves back there.
So it's Ross County against Motherwell this evening. Updates on Sports Sound, as I say. And then tomorrow it's Aberdeen Kilmarnock, Celtic, Hibs, St Johnstone, St Mirren and Hearts against Rangers. There will be highlights on the telly after all that's done. Full coverage on the radio, of course. Thank you for listening today, and Many thanks to Suzanne Lappin and Derek Ray for joining us on this edition of the Scottish Football Podcast. The man who doesn't rate the German national team, Tom English, our chief sports writer, will be joining Alistair Lamont here tomorrow. If you've got any questions for them ahead of a busy midweek of fixtures, get them into scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk. That's scottishfootball@bbc.co.uk. And remember, you can get us wherever you get your podcasts. So if you haven't done so already, just search for the Scottish Football Podcast and hit subscribe. Bye for now.
Just a quick reminder, the Behind the Goals podcast is available every Tuesday with me, Rachel Corsie, and me, Leanne Crichton. It's your one-stop shop for our take on everything that's happening in the world of football. Just head to BBC Sounds or wherever you get your podcasts and search for Behind the Goals.